Hello, fellow detectives. Welcome to Unlocked, the official podcast for all things Nancy Drew from Her Interactive. I'm your host, Tammy Tuckey, and this week we welcome actor and voiceover artist Bill Corkery to the show. Welcome, Bill.
Hi, Tammy. Pleasure to be here.
It's really an honor to have you on the show. We've had only one other person from Secrets Can Kill, the original game, which was Rick, who played Hulk, and now we have you on the show, our Daryl Gray and our Ned Nickerson.
Oh, I mean, that was such a long time ago. I think the characters were basically me, just being me. Yeah, and there's so many episodes after that, and as you probably know, Lonnie, who was Nancy, recorded all of her stuff here in my studio, and it's just an honor to be a part of that.
I thought at first it would be interesting to hear about how you got into the voiceover business before we get into the audition phase for Her Interactive. So what inspired you to become a voiceover artist?
I guess it all started back when I was going to San Diego State and studying speech communication. At first I thought, okay, well, I'll study the technical side of things and get into their radio and TV studies. But it turned out that it was so impacted. I got my associate's degree at a junior college, Southwestern Junior College, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just jump into the state school and go ahead and do the telecommunication and film stuff. Well, turned out I'd have to wait a couple of years. It's so impacted. So I decided to study speech communication, and there's a little radio station, KCR, on the campus, and it just kind of broadcast to the dormitories and stuff like that. And I thought, well, I'll volunteer there and get the technical side of things from them. Toward the end of San Diego State, I became interested in getting into radio, and I did an internship at KGB, a local legend that does the classic rock format. And so I got an internship there, and they liked what I was doing. They hired me. I thought I was going to become a DJ and get all the girls and that kind of thing, but I actually fell in love with the production side of things, being behind the scenes, writing scripts, mixing and editing and doing different voices. And that kind of led into, when I got through there, I ended up being the production director at 91X, another legendary station here in San Diego. It's they had to broadcast south of the border. Again, I was doing a lot of different characters in the radio station, and when I decided to jump out and take a shot on my own, well, there I was in my own studio thinking, okay, what am I going to do? I worked with Lonnie at 91X, and she approached me and said, hey, I do a lot of video games, and, we can put it all together in your studio. And I thought, yeah, let's do that. And so she cast me for a lot of different roles, and it was just a lot of fun. Obviously, if you're not having fun, then it sounds like you're laboring. So, I thought, yeah, let's do some fun stuff. Well, there I am, doing the characters for not only Nancy Drew, but a bunch of stuff for, I can't even count all the games. They just don't have that long a shelf life. So they come and they go, and there's always room for more. Thank goodness for that.
How do you usually approach developing a character in that type of aspect, whether it be for a Nancy Drew game or for another type of game?
Well, I do several characters on a game called Star Trek Online. I'm Commander Temer and Hiro Sugihara, which has some Japanese roots, obviously, and Commander Kararek. So depending on the job description, the status of the age, and so I can be an old man if you want me to. I can be very authoritative if you need me to. And I also am a character called Gotmutak. And so you have to be very very staccato with your delivery because he's an alien, sort of kind of like I don't even know if he's a Klingon or if he's something similar to a Klingon, but he's an alien officer driving some crazy looking ship through the galaxy. And so a lot of times it is described to you, and then you try to find within yourself the voice of that character. You have a vision. They usually send a picture of what the guy looks like, and so you know if he's got these occlusions in his teeth, you just want to make sure you're talking like that. If you have just a regular guy, then hey, you know, that's me. I'm a regular guy, and I like having fun. I like making bad jokes. You can ask my kids about that, and you just kind of follow the lead of the director. And most of the time, they know exactly what they want. They know what they're looking for, and other times it's like they sort of leave it to you to find that voice within you and project it and be that character, become the character. I think what's really important too, though, is that a lot of people, when they're starting, they just get into the booth and they're stiff and their hands are down by their sides. But you need to really do gestures. You know, you can tell when somebody's smiling on the phone. And this is something that I tell when I coach people. You need to use your facial expressions. They sort of culminate in your voice. If you're sad, you want to sort of slump your shoulders over and assume the position, because your body gestures, your facial expressions, they all your voice will react to that. And it's so important to be not only the voice, but to be that person. And the great actors you watch on stage and in the films and stuff, they become that character. And sometimes you don't even recognize them until, oh my gosh, in the credits, you know, that was so and so. It's pretty amazing how a physical transformation can really sort of resonate through the voice.
And not only that, but with Nancy Drew, the secrets can kill. You're voicing two characters, as I earlier said, you know, with Daryl and Ned. Now, Ned is only on the phone, whereas Daryl is in person, so we get to see what he looks like. Uh-huh. So did they give you like a little design for Daryl so you could kind of work off of that?
You know, they give you a description of the person. If he's really hyper, if he's laid back like a surfer dude, wow, you know, you can kind of let your voice just kind of stay on a monotone kind of thing. Or, you know, somebody that's really excited about something and really excitable and happy-go-lucky, then wow, yeah, it's going to be a different timbre and tempo and projection. I mean, like obviously the low-key guy is not going to project all that much, so you have to mic him a little closer. And then the other guy's all over the place, you know, so you back the mic off and you let him run his course. But yeah, and again, it's the total number of games. I'm trying to recall that because again, there was a 10-year split, and then, you know, but in the process, I was recording Lonnie and sending the files up to, and it was a couple of different studios up there that were doing the editing and processing for the game.
And then in 2012, you come back and you're doing various voices for Tomb of the Lost Queen. So what was it like to come back to Her Interactive and revisit, you know, Nancy, first of all, and then create some new voices?
Well, I don't feel like I ever left her because Lonnie was always in here for every game. And then when they needed some other voices, I was always willing to participate and happy to jump in and lend my voice to the different characters. And then again, you know, to separate the characters, you have to be another person.
Well, what other games have you currently been working on as of now?
Oh my gosh. They just come and go so quickly, and they're kind of sprinkled in between the other stuff that I do. It was kind of fun having Justin Long in here yesterday doing some Apple commercials. He was doing some pickups for stuff they'd already shot and really entertaining commercials. As far as games, periodically, and I haven't done anything this year with Star Trek Online, but there was one, and I wish, you know, I should have researched this a little more closely, but there was one where I was this weird dad inside of this girl's dream. She'd fall into these dreams, and it was like, he was trying to blame her for burning down the house and killing the rest of the family, and she was the only one that survived. And so there was like this guilt complex being played in her mind. And this was I think it was a German game, and they wanted to port it over to the US. So I was the dad. I was like nice, sort of friendly guy in reality. But then when she goes into her dream, I'm sort of, my skin is decaying, and I'm this like really nasty, vicious guy that was just, trying to calm her down half the time, almost like really, super sweet. And then all of a sudden the switch would flip, and I'd be this just ranting, raving, crazy maniac. And it was, I wish I could remember the name of the show. Anyway, it was, that was a weird one.
I found it so cool to find that your son, William, followed your footsteps, and he is a voiceover actor too. So can you talk a little bit about what inspired him? I'm going to assume it was you to go ahead and be a voiceover artist.
Actually, he is just a natural actor. I remember one time he, what was he, like 6 or 7 years old, maybe 8, but couldn't have been much older than that. He came upstairs with this thing he found on the computer. He printed it out, and it was like for Nickelodeon. They were searching for the world's funniest kid. And I think what they were doing was looking for a replacement for a show called All That. He ended up finding this thing and wanted to go to the Nickelodeon studio up in L.A., and they were also holding casting calls in Chicago and New York. And so they really were looking for this search. As the kids from All That were getting older and growing out of the part, they wanted to keep it targeting the younger kids. So they were looking for a replacement as these other guys got older. And so we spent the day out there, and he got picked for the top 50 out of the entire country. And then they gave us a specific amount of rules and things like that. And so we followed those rules and sent another tape in. And the people that got called in were using props that you weren't supposed to use and dressing in funny colors. And, they just wanted everything kind of bland. And so he was a little upset about that. But they liked him so much that they actually hired him to come in and do an episode of Drake and Josh. I don't know if you're familiar with that show. He got, for voice acting, I remember PBS Kids hired him to do an entire year of promotional messages. It was like, okay, we've got St. Patrick's Day, we've got Easter, we've got Christmas, New Year's, we've got President's Day, and all these things. They wanted to have these promos, and they needed a voice to do that. Well, I pulled him out of school, and it took me about 20 minutes to get into the studio. And then the director said, okay, I want you to read this thing 3 different ways, 3 times. And then so he did. I mean, he read the promo line 3 different ways. And there was no response on the other end of the phone or on the other end of the line, because this was, I think, ISDN. And I said, well, was that good? You want him to do it again? He said, no, I mean, I'm just blown away by a kid this young actually doing it 3 different ways, because usually I say that and the kid does the same thing 3 times. So he does have he grew up in the studio basically. And then it took me another 20 minutes to get him back to school. And I think the whole session lasted about 12, maybe 15 minutes. So it took me more than twice that time to get him in and out of school and into the studio. So I laugh about that all the time.
Well, I really hope you get to come back and do a Nancy Drew game soon. Thank you for all those wonderful memories and running that diner so well, Daryl.
Well, I am kind of I love to cook. I love the time I spend in the kitchen.
Well, my last question is, if you could describe your experience working with Her Interactive and being a part of the Nancy Drew universe using one word, what would it be?
Phenomenal.